Greg's Journey to the End of the Rainbow. We publish a new bedtime read-along story every night, so make sure to tap the subscribe button so you never miss any. Part 1, Greg's Discovery. Greg trudged home from school, his backpack heavy on his small frame. As he walked, he couldn't help but feel a pain of loneliness in his heart. He was always the quiet one in class, never really having any friends to speak of. But as he walked, something caught his eye. It was a rainbow, stretching across the sky in all its vibrant colors. Greg had heard an old myth that said if you followed a rainbow to its end, you would find treasure beyond your wildest dreams. Greg had always loved stories of adventure and treasure, but he had never been brave enough to go on one himself. However, something inside him stirred at the sight of the rainbow. He knew he had to investigate. Without thinking twice, Greg set off in the direction of the rainbow, his heart beating with excitement and fear. As he walked, he couldn't help but wonder what kind of treasure lay waiting for him at the end of the rainbow. Would it be gold and jewels, like in the stories he had heard? Or something even more precious, like a magical amulet or a genie's lamp? As he walked further and further, the rainbow seemed to stretch out endlessly before him. Greg wondered if he would ever find its end. But he was determined not to give up. He had to know if the myth was true. Finally, as the sun began to set, Greg saw something glimmering in the distance. He quickened his pace, his heart beating with anticipation. Was this the treasure he had been searching for? As he got closer, Greg realized that what he had seen was not treasure at all. It was simply a reflection of the sun on a pond in a nearby field. Disappointed but not discouraged, Greg continued his search, his eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of the end of the rainbow. Despite the long journey and the disappointment of finding no treasure yet, Greg felt a sense of excitement and adventure he had never felt before. He was no longer the shy boy who had left his school that afternoon. He was an adventurer, a treasure hunter, and he knew that no matter what lay ahead, he was ready to face it. Part 2, The Journey Begins. The next day, Greg set out early in the morning, his backpack loaded with supplies. He knew he was in for a long journey, but he was determined to reach the end of the rainbow. As he walked through the fields and over the hills, Greg felt a sense of excitement that he had never experienced before. He had always been a quiet and reserved boy, but now he felt alive and adventurous. However, the journey was not without its challenges. Greg had to cross a fast-moving river, which proved to be more difficult than he had anticipated. He had to climb up steep cliffs, sometimes using his hands and feet to scramble up the rocky surface. He had to navigate through thick forests, constantly checking his compass to make sure he was going in the right direction. Despite these challenges, Greg remained determined. He knew that the end of the rainbow was out there somewhere, and he was going to find it no matter what. As the days passed, Greg's journey became increasingly difficult. He had to endure sweltering heat during the day and freezing temperatures at night. He had to ration his food and water carefully, knowing that he had to make it last until he found the treasure. But even in the midst of these difficulties, Greg was amazed by the beauty of the world around him. He saw breathtaking landscapes and encountered animals he had never seen before, such as colorful birds and shy deer. He felt more alive than he had ever felt before. As the journey continued, Greg began to feel a sense of pride in himself. He had never imagined he could do something like this, but here he was, pushing himself to his limits and beyond. He felt stronger, braver, and more confident than he had ever felt before. With each step he took, Greg felt closer to the end of the rainbow. And although he didn't know what lay ahead, he was excited to find out. Part 3, Challenges and Obstacles. As Greg continued his journey, the challenges and obstacles he faced became increasingly difficult. He had to cross treacherous ravines and navigate through dense jungles. He had to deal with wild animals, such as snakes and bears, which made him more anxious. Despite these challenges, Greg remained determined. He knew that the treasure was out there somewhere, waiting for him at the end of the rainbow. One day, as he was walking through a dense forest, Greg heard a loud growl. He looked around and saw a huge bear staring at him with its sharp teeth bared. Greg's heart pounded in his chest as he realized he had to act fast. He quickly reached for the pepper spray he had brought with him, aiming it at the bear's eyes. The bear roared in anger and charged at Greg. Greg was terrified, but he stood his ground and sprayed the bear. The bear was temporarily blinded by the pepper spray, allowing Greg to run away to safety. Greg realized that he had to be more careful and alert from now on. He knew that he had to face more challenges ahead and he had to be prepared for them. As he continued his journey, he faced other challenges as well. He had to cross a deep river with a strong current, using his wit and determination to reach the other side safely. He had to climb a tall mountain, which left him exhausted and breathless. Despite these difficulties, Greg never gave up. He knew that the treasure was waiting for him at the end of the rainbow and he was determined to find it. As he got closer to his destination, Greg realized that his journey had not only been about finding treasure. It had been about facing his fears and overcoming obstacles. He had learned to be brave, resourceful, and resilient. He had become a stronger person, both mentally and physically. And although he realized there was no end of the rainbow, he knew that he had already found something much more valuable, himself. Part 4, Finding the Treasure. With a sense of satisfaction and fulfillment, Greg made his way back home. He walked with a spring in his step, knowing that he had found the treasure that he had been searching for all along. As he approached his hometown, he felt a new sense of confidence. He was no longer the shy boy who kept to himself. He was a new person, ready to face whatever challenges life threw his way. And although he knew that there would be more challenges and obstacles ahead, he was ready to face them with the newfound courage and determination that he had gained from his adventure. As he walked through the streets, he saw his old friends who had always teased him for being shy. But this time, he walked up to them with a smile on his face, knowing that he had found the courage to be himself. And as he shared his incredible adventure with them, he knew that he had also found something else along the way, self-belief. The end. Do you want to hear more stories? Then hit the subscribe button to follow our channel, so you never miss another daily story. And keep listening now, as more stories will play shortly.